Classic, just get on with the effing job. This was from a few years ago while working in an assembly line for food. We used to get orders that we would make up for distribution. For example, 1,000 lasagna microwave meals, 800 bolognese, etc. As all the products were perishable, we tried not to overfulfill the orders at all, as the chances of us being able to place elsewhere was slim due to the time factor. I leave one of the lines, and one day I get the order through at 10 times its usual volume. I go to speak to the boss to double check, and he turns on me, asks if I'm incompetent, and tells me to just get the shit done. Okay, boss, whatever you say. We usually process about 4 different lines a day, and when he came for his check-in around halfway through the shift was when the shit hit the fan. It was then he realized that there was a mistake, and we had overproduced the order by 5 times at that point. There was nothing he could say but to move on to the next line. He had to eat a huge loss on his figures for waste. It was glorious. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Storytime with Uncle Jon. Today we're taking a look at r/malicious compliance. Yeah, that last story. What are you going to do? You go in and tell the boss, listen, this doesn't look right, man. I mean, the guys on the floor know the normal thing from their customers most of the time, within a probably a 10% range or whatever. And at 10 times the normal volume, there's definitely a mistake going on there. Yeah, and then the boss turning on him, are you incompetent? Just get it done. Blah, 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 blah. Right. Ego's getting in the way of thinking. Listen to the people on the floor. They may not always be right, but it's worth a listen, because that could have very well saved you a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of headache. A-hole's gonna a-hole, I guess. You are not capable of doing my job. Okay. So earlier this year, my boss took 3 months off to have some surgery and recover. I've been working for 28 years in my field, and I'm pretty capable of my job. My boss is a highly strung woman who believes only she knows how to do anything. Before my boss took her extended leave, I asked about filling in her role while she was on leave, and she told me, "You're not capable of doing my job. No one here is." I asked again in an email and was told the same thing. Ooh, in writing. I sent the email to all my work colleagues. When they advertised to fill my boss's role, no one applied. When management asked everyone why didn't anyone apply, they all said they weren't capable. There are over 40 staff who didn't apply. Someone from another site did apply. He had just completed his new graduate year. They appointed Bob, who was 24. Bob emailed me after a week directing me to do all his work. There was multiple links in documents, stock order, meeting agendas, etc. I replied that I was happy to do this when I get a free moment. I did nothing. It was clear within a week that Bob had no idea how to be boss, and things were going wrong very quickly. I was called to an HR meeting and asked why I wasn't doing Bob's work that he instructed me to do. I informed him that I already have a full-time job doing my work. How can I do Bob's as well? Secondly, I showed the email that said no one is capable of doing my boss's job. I was left alone after this. Bob basically did nothing for 3 months. My boss returned blowing up at how much work she has to do. She tried to blame the workers on the ground for not being helpful enough. I sent her back her email where she stated that I nor any staff was capable of doing her work. We didn't see her leave her office for months. See, there's that arrogance again. And that's what it is. It's truly an arrogance. Certain people, especially in middle management, have this thing in their head that tells them that they're irreplaceable. No one can possibly do your work. There's no way they'll ever fire you, lay you off, or get rid of your position, whatever. I hate to tell you, none of us are irreplaceable. We may be valuable, but there's not one person, I dare anybody to think that they are irreplaceable. That's just not how the world works. There's always somebody who's faster, smarter, better with money, whatever the case. There's always somebody that can outdo you. So don't ever think that you're not going to lose your position just because you think you're irreplaceable and nobody can do your job. Bullshit. And if there is, by some slim chance, that there are no people that can do your job, it's probably because you made it that way. You made it so complicated that only you know what the ins and outs are. Or you lambasted it somehow. Is that the right word? Lambasted? Sabotaged, whatever. And made it so that, people either can't or won't fill the position because they know something hinky's up. So, no assistant for you. I was just thinking of the soup guy from Seinfeld. No soup for you. I'm an accountant for a software as a service, SaaS, I always mess that up, company that tends to have some interesting ideas on how a business should be run. Yes, I'm from Minnesota, why do you ask? We did roughly $30 million in revenue when the issue came up, with myself as the only biller, issuing over 1K invoices a month, the bulk of which needed to be sent by business day 5. I'd asked repeatedly for an assistant specifically for the billing process, and in turn, got someone for collections, which I half-assedly had been doing by myself, and managed a 45 DSO. I don't know. Anyway, for revenue posting, which wasn't my purview anyway, and for payroll, which I was doing because we literally had no one else. But no assistant budget could be found, per the CFO. My supervisor, the controller, consistently tried to get me one, but was always denied every time she and I asked. One lovely day, we get a new product, Adobe Sign. Our clients can now send documents to their clients or talent for a low price of an exorbitant rate for tiered bundles. I was supposed to get a report of how many packages were signed, then compared to what they were being billed, and float up to a higher tier if they used more than they were contracted for 2 months in a row. This worked okay for the first few months, when only 100 or so clients used the product, and I received a summary report of usage. But after those few months, the summary report stopped, and adoption exponentially grew. By April 2020, I was receiving By April 2020, I was receiving a 1 million row spreadsheet, plus 2 other supplementary sheets that had 0 key identifiers, but no other instruction on how to complete my job. I repeatedly told my supervisor that this wasn't feasible in the long run, and I couldn't figure out how to calculate float-ups, but she was distracted with other things. Hi 2020. And told me to figure it out. What I figured out is my need for an assistant was imperative now, and I literally couldn't do my job as is, so I didn't. 0 float-ups from April to October 2020. Come October, sales account management and the C-suite finally figure out that Adobe revenue is lower than they expected based on usage. I repeated my complaint that I couldn't get everything done with the data they gave me. Adobe data was the least of the missing and incomplete data, to be fair, without losing in particular Adobe float-ups, and everything hit the fan. The CFO demanded a full documentation of the billing process because finance can't be losing so much revenue. Read, why are you guys, and specifically me, effing up? I just smiled, nodded, and agreed to comply with an outside auditor documenting my billing process to find my holes. In the 4-month process that took about 2 weeks out of every month, I described my process down to the nitty-gritty detail, up to and including the fact that A, I did not have a summarized user log. I got an 18K line user listing that I had to comb through for duplicates since 60% of our clients use 2 of our platforms, and we didn't, and still don't, have single sign-on, SSO. And then pivot out and associate each client manually via lookup against a non-key identifier manually entered into Salesforce, SFTC. Not sure what that is. B, there was no DB for which add-on services our clients were using, and our metadata platform was just a manual checkbox for each client and each service upkept by the client and each service upkept by the client's account manager. C, AMP had no reporting functionality to audit client usage versus contracted usage versus billed usage. D, there is more, but I think you get the picture. When the outside consultant gave her report to my supervisor and the CFO, the call was quiet for a long bit. Then the CFO said thank you and disconnected. About 15 minutes later, I get a direct Teams video call from the CFO. OP, he said, I want to apologize. The fact that company's still a going concern at all is a testament to your hard work. What you have done with the shitty data you've been given is nothing short of amazing. Thank you. Slightly paraphrased, of course, but that was the general gist. The going concern part, though, direct quote. The next business day, an ad was placed for an assistant for me, and for the SFDC deal desk manager. I haven't had to answer my phone or dig in customer emails in 3+ years. I love my assistant, and I'm so glad to have her. She makes my work life 1 million times better. There's something to be said for having support staff. Not everybody can be like, top tier, out front, MVP, whatever. This guy actually was. He was pulling things out of his hat that just normally don't seem like they could have been done. Even though he was missing things and whatever, you do the best you can with what you got. And if nobody's willing to give you the support that you need, then that's all you can do is just plug along day after day until somebody realizes it and fixes it, especially after you tried to point it out to them. That's dumb. But good for you for getting an assistant that works with you well, evidently. And it sounds like it's the same assistant that you've had for 3 years. So, and it's nice once you get a long-term work relationship build up, then, she almost knows how you think, you almost know how she thinks, and you guys can work through whatever comes up together, and it really makes things nice. That's what I'm hoping to do with this channel, honestly. I can set things up, I can record the videos, but it gets to the point where after a while, some of the editing and everything else just kind of gets in the way. So, At some point, in order to be productive and actually get things done, I'm going to need some kind of support people. So we'll see how that goes. If any of you guys do editing, let me know. Why are you standing? A long time ago, when mainframes ruled the earth, I was asked to give an all-day presentation at a military school that had our hardware. It was going to be about our latest networking hardware and software, and as someone that knew lots about it, I was selected. Get up in the large lecture hall. Pretty soon everyone files in a military fashion, gets seats, and I get the nod from an officer that I'm good to go. Because Mom taught me to be nice, I started off with a "Good morning, I'm Kylite," and was drowned out by a loud "Good morning, sir!" Wow, okay, so it's going to be like that. So I get started again, and I'm soon in full marketing / professor mode with gestures, arm pointing, pretty much full kabuki theater. Cadet stands up, I stop and go, "Hi, do you have a question?" "Sir, no, sir." Weird, but okay. Back to my interpretive dance routine describing a 3-letter networking environment with multiple physical and logical units. Soon another cadet stands up. I stop and go, "Hi, do you have a question?" "Sir, no, sir." Okay, stay calm, Kilda. This'll be fine. It's gonna be fine. As I turn back to my slide with pictures and circles and arrows and a paragraph on the slide, another cadet stands up. 3 times the charm. Maybe a question? Do you have a question? "Sir, no, sir." Okay, I have a question. Why are you standing? "To keep from falling asleep, sir." The penny drops. Turn to my first standee. "Is that why you're standing?" "Sir, yes, sir." A quick look at the final standee with my eyebrow in full Spock arch, and they respond, "Sir, yes, sir." Okay, let's take a 20-minute break then. The officer assigned to explain to me that falling asleep would earn punishment, but standing up and then falling asleep was fine. I made sure we had extra breaks for the rest of the day. Oh dear. So I was in the Navy. Navy wasn't quite that strict. I mean, we had, although it depended on, the officers that were around you at that point in time. Some of them, were pretty chill, laid back. As long as you did your job and you didn't screw around and didn't sleep while you were on watch or anything like that, they were fine. But yeah, falling asleep in a class, a lecture, or anything like that, bad form, man. And it was easy to fall asleep because they usually ran you ragged. And it didn't help that in between times we were usually getting a little tanked up, but you know what I mean. Yeah. Don't fall asleep when anybody can see you. How one manager's layoff decision led to a $200,000 mistake and an unintended comeback. Backstory. This is another story about Sam and Murad. My manager Sam is extremely chill and an outstanding leader. His manager Murad is a stickler for the rules. I work as an infrastructure and configuration manager and happen to be one of the more expensive resources on the project from my domain. This story takes place in January 2023. The company was undergoing some restructuring and most of our contracts included a last in, first out clause by default. When I joined in March 2022, I took a 10% pay cut to remove the LIFO clause from my contract because I was seeking job stability. Although I was still earning more than I did in my previous job, it was only 20% more instead of 30%. Here's the story. As the infrastructure manager, I am responsible for maintaining all the product licenses and project uses. One of these product licenses requires a digital signature to function. Typically, such tasks require the use of service accounts, which are owned by users. When someone leaves the organization, their service accounts are automatically transferred to their manager. Unfortunately, service accounts cannot have digital signatures, so I had to use mine in this case. The product activation process involves using the corresponding digital signature certificate. Since I already had a DSC for tax purposes, I decided to reuse it instead of obtaining a separate one. In India, DSCs are encrypted and require a one-time password from my mobile number every time they're used. This mobile number must be associated with my national ID. And that's how most encryption services work in India. Sam was on vacation, his first in 5 years, apart from taking 1 day leave in 2018 when he moved from India to Europe. He had never even taken a sick day. He recently got married, and for his honeymoon, he took a 2-month vacation to travel all over Europe with his new wife. In his absence, Murad was overseeing the project. Management asked Murad to cut 15% of his workforce. Wow. If you've read my previous posts, you would know that Murad is not pleased with me. So the inevitable happened. I was called into a meeting with Murad and HR. Murad asked me to voluntarily resign, or else I would be let go. This is a tactic companies in India often use, as getting fired is considered a much bigger deal than simply losing a job. It's a cultural thing, I suppose. Being fired carries a stigma that most people want to avoid. HR usually tries to persuade people to resign voluntarily so that it doesn't become public knowledge that they were fired. This tactic often works well, as resigning saves the company from having to pay 3 months' salary, which they would owe if they were to lay off an employee. However, I knew better, so I refused his request. Murad was quite taken aback by this. Since I had called his bluff, he had to double down to show me he meant business. By the end of the day, I received my termination email with instructions on how to return company property that I had. Here's the malicious compliance. I replied to the email asking to schedule the return of the laptop promptly, as I needed to leave the city for a few days. Fake excuse. My objective was to have them pick up my laptop from my place and format it as soon as possible. This will be important later. By the end of the week, my laptop was picked up. I had already backed up a copy of my DSC, so there were no issues on my end. Fast forward to mid-February, and there was an issue with the product. A support ticket was raised, and the support team wanted to upgrade to the next version, as this was a known bug that had been resolved in the next version. The product was used once a week to create a weekly report, but no one really looked at it except for Sam, who was still on vacation. So its absence wasn't likely to be noticed for at least a full month. The end of the month report would bring it to upper management's attention. Now, support requires a license check, hence it required decryption of the existing license. Long story short, I received a call asking for the DSC and OTP, and I rejected. Murad eventually was informed, who asked the support team to provide a new license. The product support team informed him that they couldn't provide a new license without the company purchasing one. The license cost for this product was $200,000. Holy cow. At this point, Murad decided that they could live without the report. He mostly handled the team side of the project, so he wasn't really aware of the impact of this report. Sam returned from vacation at the end of February. By the first week of March, he noticed the missing weekly report and promptly called me. I informed him that Murad had fired me. Sam was quite perplexed, to say the least. Unlike Murad, he knew that the current license needed my DSC to work, so he asked if my DSC was available. I told him that my laptop had a copy, but it was taken. He checked the system, and sure enough, the laptop had been formatted. He asked me if there was any way to resolve the issue. I informed him that even if there were a way, I couldn't help him without being an employee. He asked me to wait a few days. There's a quarterly meeting that takes place in the middle of every third month, attended by the CEO and top brass. At the March meeting, everyone noticed the missing report. The CEO asked why this important project was missing the report. Sam informed him, there were about 90 people on the call, that a key person had been let go and the report couldn't be prepared without spending $200,000 on a new license. Now, I heard the recording of this call after rejoining, so I'll share the relevant conversation below. CEO says, "Is this related to layoff?" Sam says, "Yes." CEO says, "Why wasn't this person's work backed up? Why was he on the LIFO list if he was so key?" Sam said he wasn't on the LIFO list. Murad jumps in. "He joined less than a year ago. He must be on that list." CEO says, "Let's discuss this offline after the call." I don't know what transitioned in the offline meeting, but 2 days later I received a call from the head of HR offering me my job back. I asked for the following. 1. 100% raise and promotion to next level. 2. Out of LIFO, obviously. 3. Permanent work from home mentioned in contract. 4. I keep the termination payout. 5. Since it'll be counted as a new job on my profile, a joining bonus, 20% of annual salary. I joined back at the third week of March. I received a brand new laptop within 30 minutes of joining, hand delivered at my home by someone from IT in my city. It took me 10 minutes to decrypt the license using my backup of DSC, 30 minutes to upgrade the product to next version. By the end of lunch, CEO had the report in hand. My new, promoted role offers a 60% increase in my medical insurance amount, a take-home company car, option to purchase company stock, and lots of other upgrades. I personally thanked Murad on my first week for the promotion and recognition by CEO in a team-wide call. The same 90 people minus the top brass and CEO. Edit. Oh my god, this blew up. I've been reading all the comments and answering as best I could. I'll clarify a few things below, and I'll keep adding as more questions pile on. 1. It's not at all common or accepted to use a personal DSC for such an important company asset. The product company was undergoing migration of their encryption scheme and was temporarily using the government-certified encryption scheme. Once their migration was completed, we were supposed to obtain a new updated license that had the new encryption for free. I was meaning to do that, but with my workload, simply didn't find the time. Basically, since it was working fine, it wasn't a priority. 2. The company didn't rehire me with that seemingly enormous payout for the license dependency. Yes, that was a dependency, but had I been a shitty worker worthy of getting fired, they would have paid the $200K instead. Sam wanted me back, hence I was hired back. I have a lot of proprietary knowledge and overall a great resource. 3. Murad is the brother of the wife of a senior board member. I still work with him in the project, so does Sam. It's one of those cons of life that you accept and move on. He's pissed with anyone who isn't licking his boots. Over time, I've done a lot for the project, and he now understands how valuable a resource I am. He has stopped trying to kick me out. I don't understand managers who get weird about employees who, I don't know, maybe he's afraid he's going to show him up or something, or that he knows more, or that he does play a key role in this company. Again, not irreplaceable, none of us are, but somehow Murad got it in his head and got a hard on for this guy that he just doesn't need to be there. I don't know. There are just some management who seem more like children in a daycare center than actual management of a, rather large company. So, and just one more way to throw his weight around and show how powerful he is. You're fired. Anyway, thanks for joining me today, guys. And keep in mind, if you like handmade soaps and shave stuff and beard stuff, check out the website below and see what you like. Maybe you'll be interested in something. Who knows? Anyway, we'll see you on the next video.